Why does the revision technique work, but why is it also not necessary to manifest? I'm going to explain it right now. Hey, I'm Dan. I talk about manifestation, conscious creation, intentional living, all that good stuff. Thanks for joining me. And today I want to focus on the revision technique. So, revision technique you probably heard of, especially if you've been in manifestation circles for a while. And I'm going to briefly explain it for those of you who aren't familiar with it. Essentially, when you are trying to manifest a particular thing or an experience and you're not currently experiencing it due to some past event, right? And you think that by changing something in your past, you're going to get a different outcome, right? So let's say you're experiencing this unwanted circumstance right now. You go into your imagination, you go back to what you thought was the event that triggered the unwanted circumstance and outcome right now that you're experiencing because you want to manifest a different outcome. So you go into your imagination, you go back to that event, you change something about it, thinking that that is going to lead to a different outcome with your logical brain and mind. That's essentially what revision technique is. Let me give you a very brief example, okay? So let's say you are not on speaking terms with your coworker right now because you had an argument yesterday about something silly, something about a disagreement over a type of lunch, whatever the case may be. And you want to be on speaking terms. You want to manifest a different interaction with your coworker because you don't like the negative vibe and energy you've got going on with them right now. So you go into your imagination, you use your five senses, right? You go back to that point in time where you're talking about lunch and you had that disagreement and now you're not speaking to each other. Well, you're going to go back in time and maybe instead of talking about lunch, you completely avoid the subject, right? You talk about something else that you both agree on, right? And because you think that by avoiding that particular topic, it wouldn't have led to the argument, which wouldn't have led to you no longer be on speaking terms. And if that didn't happen, then you two would still be in harmonious working relationship. You'd be talking, you'd be friendly with each other, right? Because that's the manifestation that you want. That's the desire you want to experience. So using this example, why does the revision technique actually work and how does it actually work? Well, based on what is going on is that your new identity, which is that you two are on speaking terms, you're embodying a particular identity that makes sense to you. The past would make sense to you. So if I were in my new identity that I'm embodying, and I'm on speaking terms with my coworker, that past makes sense to you logically is that you were talking about something you enjoy and liked instead of having the argument. If you didn't have the argument, it wouldn't have led to you not speaking to each other, correct? So you think that that past is linked to that present. So that event is what was linked to that moment. So because of your belief in that, because of your belief that those two events are linked, you talking to your coworker and avoiding that argument about the food, right, about lunch, you think that by revising that past to not be talking about the argument is going to lead to the outcome that your new identity that you're embodying. And because every reality exists out there, yes, there is a reality where your new identity is on speaking terms with your coworker and did not have an argument about lunch or food the previous day. And that reality is what you're selecting. And that is the reality you're embodying as your new identity. And that is why it works, because if you go into your mind and you imagine from the perceived time of the past of that new identity, you never talked about the food stuff, the lunch stuff that led to the argument, right? And so now you're on speaking terms, so you're embodying that. Of course, you can do other techniques to also fill that in, but that's why the revision technique works. And now I'm going to explain to you why it's not even necessary to manifest. First of all, you can use a ton of other techniques, whatever other techniques you want to embody that new identity that isn't on speaking terms with your coworker. Just embody the new identity where you are on good speaking terms, right? So already you don't need to use revision to do it. But the second reason why it's not necessary is because every single moment in time is separate. Every single moment in time is separate. Remember, all creation is already finished. Every single reality already exists. All the possibilities are already finished. It exists. You just need to select it. There is a reality where you had the argument with your coworker, right? The event that you thought triggered you two not talking. to each other, there's a reality where you two did argue about that thing, right? But you're still on good speaking terms, that you're still friendly with each other. So you have to understand that you can simply choose a reality where you're already on speaking terms. You don't have to go back in the past to change anything because they're separate. They're completely separate. And this is why there's like an illusion of time. I'm going to make another video on that later on. But honestly, this is why the revision technique, some people will the people who really understand this stuff, the people who really get it will understand that the revision technique is, the reason why the revision technique works is simply based on your belief in that this event is linked to that event. Right? This event in the past is linked to this event in the present moment, or potentially leads to a particular moment in the future or an experience in the future. And your belief in that is what makes it work if you go back and revise that, because if you change that, it's going to lead to a different outcome. So that's why it works. But it's not necessary. In fact, it's not the revision itself that's making it work. It's more so your belief in it. And you don't even have to use it, right? So when I teach manifestation, I generally don't even revise. I simply go to the end, I pick something in my new identity. I'm already embodying it. If I want to manifest us being on good speaking terms, I can just simply imagine a scene where I am on good speaking terms and I'm feeling that warmth and welcoming and friendliness with my coworker. I don't need to go back and change a particular specific event that happened in my perceived past just simply because I experienced it in that moment. I'm already a new person now. They're a new person now, right? We're a different identity. We've already shifted. The past doesn't matter. So that's why the revision, circumstances don't matter, because every circumstance is just separate. It's just separate, completely separate. And once you understand this key concept that all creation is finished, all reality is finished, right? You're not even going to need the revision technique. Now, if you are a very logical person and you're like, no, past to present to future, and it's really hard for you to break out of that, yes, you can absolutely use the revision technique to help you with that. But just know that it isn't necessarily the revision. It's not revising the event. If that event didn't happen or didn't happen a particular way, didn't lead to this particular circumstance. Because guess what? There is a circumstance where there is a reality where you didn't have the argument and you're still not on good speaking terms with your coworker. There's a reality where you did have the argument, but you are on good speaking terms with your coworker. All realities, all possibilities exist. So by you trying to forcefully link it together based on your mind, your logical mind, saying this leads to that, yes, it's your belief in that allows the revision technique to work. But what I'm saying is there's a so much easier and better way to do it. Just simply pick a moment after that thing that you already have your manifestation or desire. And it's as simple as that. And imagine it, embody that new identity. You don't have to use the revision technique. And the reason why I also don't like using the revision technique so much is because, first of all, it's on a understanding that your logical brain can kind of make sense of how everything operates in the universe. So that's already based on a false premise. Because the universe has so many multiple different ways, your limited, and I don't even want to say limited, but your perceived limitation of your mind and your ego, right? It comes from a place of ego. When you're manifesting with the revision technique, it essentially comes from a place of ego and mind. Because you think that you can logically sort out like this led to point A, led to point B. And that's not the case. They're just completely two separate realities, two separate identities that you can embody. Right? You can just have to choose to embody that new identity that has the manifestation or desire that you want to experience. You don't have to go back into your perceived past and change anything because the perceived past is done. It's a separate reality. It's valid. It can exist on its own timeline, and reality can move forward in that. And there can be different outcomes based on that past, literal past reality that you experienced, right? But it's separate from what you're experiencing now and what you're experiencing in the perceived future. Really, all we have is experience in the present right now, but I don't want to get into this right now. But essentially, that's the revision technique, why it actually works. You can use it if it helps you, and it's the type of technique that resonates with you. Fine, sure. There's an easier way, though. And I also explained why you actually don't need to use it and why it's based on a false premise of how reality works. All right? Happy manifesting, everyone. Oh, also, one last thing. If you want to leave your comments and questions down below, look at it as a free resource for you right now while I have some time. I don't know how long it's going to last. I am quite busy, but sometimes I do have some extra time and I go in there and I just, type out an answer. I do put quite a lot of depth and detail in a lot of the answers, and I really help you kind of be aware of where your awareness is, how to manifest, just try to help you out in your specific situation. So definitely let me know down in the comments below. And appreciate all of you, whoever is still watching up until this point. I'm going to see you all soon. All right?